Welcome to the International CPTED Association webinar on all issues related to crime prevention through environmental design. The International CPTED Association, the ICA, is a worldwide non-profit association for professionals, researchers, urban designers, crime prevention practitioners, and students of CPTED. Our webinar is intended to educate and extend the CPTED knowledge in the topics far and wide. The webinar is produced by the ICA, and introductory music was kindly prepared for us by a Denver-based band, Muj. My name is Matea Mihnyac, and I'm Executive Director of the ICA. Before we start the webinar, we will play a quick ICA promo video so that you can learn about some benefits of becoming an ICA member. Before I hand over to our co-host today, the Indian Police Foundation, just a brief disclaimer that the views expressed in this presentation belong to our guest speakers and do not necessarily reflect the position of the ICA. On behalf of the ICA, I invite Mr. Ramachandran, the founder, president of the Indian Police Foundation, and a highly decorated and accomplished member of the Indian Police Service to share some opening remarks with you. His brief biography will be added into the chat box for those who would like to know more about Mr. Ramachandran. Welcome everyone and enjoy the webinar today. Over to you, Mr. Ramachandran.
Thank you, Matea. Good afternoon, our esteemed panelists, the indomitable Mr. Vasudevan Suresh, Police Commissioner Mr. Sudhanshu Sarangi, who is also my colleague in the IPF, co-founder of the ICA, Mr. Grigory Saville, Ms. Matea, the Executive Director of ICA, Dr. Manjari Kapoor, who heads the India division of the ICA, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the audience. Good afternoon to every one of you, and a very good morning to Mr. Saville. Welcome to each one of you to this very important webinar. My name is Ramachandran. I am the president of the Indian Police Foundation. First of all, a word about the Indian Police Foundation for the benefit of those who may not be very familiar with the foundation. The IPF is a multidisciplinary independent think tank on police and policing. Our constituents mostly are serving police officers. Some of the most respected police professionals in the country are our members, both serving and retired police officers, senior civil servants, media and industry leaders, lawyers, academicians, civil society leaders, etc. The IPF has been organizing various events and intellectual activities of interest to law enforcement officers in India. Now, coming straight to today's webinar, Manjari and I have been discussing this for some time now, and I'm happy that this has finally come alive. In fact, this is the second webinar and second function on CPTED that the IPF has organized. The first one was held at about around 2 years back in Lucknow in partnership with the Uttar Pradesh Police. The context of today's topic is very well known to this audience, so I don't need to explain. The basic premise of today's deliberations is that our public spaces as well as our residential and working environments can be designed or even redesigned to reduce the opportunities for crime to occur. I have decided not to speak on the main theme of CPTED today, so that there is more time for the real experts and specialists to speak. I'll confine myself to two small stories from my early career, policing career, which may be of interest in this context. The first story is about an experience when I was a trainee officer in one of the district towns where I was undergoing training. I came to know of a series of thefts of baggage of railway passengers, and police was having difficulty in catching the culprits. They were not able to track them. The roads leading to the railway station were all kept under strict watch, but to no avail. Then there was also theories that the thieves may be coming by one train and snatching the baggage and escaping by another train. The long story short, we found out that there was an abandoned underground passage below the railway lines, and the thieves were actually making use of that abandoned facility, which was facilitating even other crimes. This became a major lesson for me in security planning in my future career. So the second story I want to narrate is about planning of a state secretariat complex of the state of Assam in Dispur, where I was posted. Many of you might recall that the capital city of Assam was shifted from Shillong to Dispur. And in the initial years, the secretariat was housed in semi-permanent structures. There were major security concerns, and we had substantial number of police personnel guarding these secretariat buildings. And many of these personnel were in fact accommodated in tentage. A few years later, the state government started making plans for building a permanent secretariat there. A secretariat and a legislature complex at Dispur. So one day, a presentation was being shown about the proposed plan for the secretariat building complex. So in my capacity as the police superintendent of that city, I happened to attend the presentation. And I asked, at the end of the presentation, I asked the question about the security plans for the complex, and also about where the security personnel would be accommodated. So the gentleman who was making the presentation was very visibly irritated by this question. And he pointed to some open spaces in the plan. And he said, look, your policemen can pitch their tents in any of those open spaces. And we will discuss security after the constructions are over. So that was his final remarks. So security is usually discussed after facilities are constructed. So that has been our culture in which we are brought up. Usually security is an afterthought. Thankfully, this outlook is changing slowly. And CPTED, in fact, promises that there can be good design solutions to better public security and law enforcement, traffic regulation, emergency services, city surveillance, transportation systems, pedestrian safety, emergency services, disaster response, resilience, and a number of other items. So in the context of the 100 smart cities being built in India, we thought there is an opportunity to discuss the design of these city environments to the requirement of law and order, law enforcement, public security, and emergency services. And that explains why we organized this seminar, the webinar today. So our slogan today is that smart cities must be safe cities. Now, before I hand over the mic to our moderator of the day, Dr. Manjari Kapoor, I'll briefly introduce her. Manjari is a practicing architect and a visiting faculty at some of the leading architectural schools in the country. She has been a pioneer in propagating the concepts of CPTED and the concept of security through architectural design. She's a director on the board of the International CPTED Association, ICA, and the president of the Association for Building Security India. She is also the author and chairperson of the Secure Standards for Design of Buildings and Rating Systems. Now over to you, Manjari, to conduct the rest of the proceedings. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for that introduction. And thank you very much for your kind words. Very interesting stories you narrated, sir, and they really go and hit a chord, exactly what we intend and our intent behind this webinar. Thank you very much, sir. For our audience, good morning or good afternoon, good evening. Best is Namaste from India. And on behalf of the International CPTED Association, as Asia Region and the Indian Police Foundation, supported by Association for Building Security India and FOCUS, the Forum of Critical Utility Services, we welcome all our viewers from across the globe at odd times also to a discussion on CPTED, integrating safety and security in the design of smart cities. Before we plunge into the session, I'll just give you an overview of the next 110 odd minutes with all of you. We start with an introductory presentation about the title, followed by a panel discussion in 3 rounds. Then this will be followed by a concluding Q&A session with the live questions and some questions which we've already received from the registrants. Some general instructions to the viewers before we start. Questions can be added in the chat box at any time during the webinar, and they will be taken up in the Q&A section. Please highlight for whom the question is directed, if anybody in particular, and also details of who is asking the question. We will also be taking up many of the questions received, and but we may not be able to address all the questions. For all such queries, we will be happy to engage with you after the webinar by mail or phone as convenient. You can write into our contact details mentioned on the promotional material at any time or our personal IDs. So now allow me to get into a brief introduction of the title of our webinar today. CPTED, integrating public safety security in the design of smart cities. I hope my presentation and pointer are visible on all the screens. Can I hear a yay? Can somebody tell me if the presentation has come alive?
Yeah, it's come.
Okay, thank you so much. So as Mr. Ramachandran introduced me, I am Dr. Manjari Kapoor, a professional architect, and I am a security integrationist working towards the collaboration of architects, planners with security men to achieve better urban security for ourselves and our future generations. So as we notice, our title has 3 main components to understand before we start discussing. CPTED, CPTED or CPTED as it is pronounced, integrating of public safety and security, and lastly, smart cities. Let's start with smart cities. Today we live in the smart era. From smartphones to smart TVs, everything is getting smarter. What makes these things smart? What are smart cities and how are they different from traditional cities? Cities have evolved and changed in tandem with humanity. From Indus Valley civilization of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro through medieval cities like Jaipur, which were planned as per the Indian traditions of Vastu Purusha Mandala, to the most commonly known post-colonial planning of Lutyens' Delhi, man's approach to city planning is continually evolving. To reach the smart cities movement today, to deal with science and technology, culture, tradition, socio-politics, economics, safety, and security. The 19th century models of planning gave way to more people-centric urban thought in keeping with the new age democratic world, and in the early 1990s cropped up the concept of smart cities. The chief highlights of these being ICT infrastructure, e-governance, high-tech investment, all aimed at economic growth. There are many definitions of smart cities worldwide, of which one of them from ITU UN says, a smart sustainable city is an innovative city that uses ICTs and other means to improve the quality of life, efficiency of urban operations and services, and competitiveness, while ensuring that it meets the needs of present and future generations with respect to economic, social, and environmental aspects. Now, this shows that our smart cities, as traditionally considered technology-centric, is not viable, because definitely not at the cost of inclusion and sustainability. Another one of the definitions by the British standards also lays the emphasis on integration of physical, digital, and human systems to deliver a sustainable, prosperous, and inclusive future to the citizens. So the underlying aim, we must understand, is to enhance the quality of life, or what is globally called now the livability of cities. So we understand then that through ICT, though ICT is a large component of smart cities, it is not the only or even the dominant one. It is probably the one major different focus, setting smart cities apart from traditional cities, but sociology, including all aspects of law and order, inclusivity, and sustainability, are as important to smart cities as to any human settlement, if not more. Sustainability here is not limited to environmental sustainability only, but also social and economic sustainability, which is even more highlighted in the post-COVID world. Further, when we talk about integrating in this public safety and security in the smart cities, predominantly we are offered CCTV command control centers and smart personnel using smart apps, but all of them device dependent. Now, most security thought in the design of smart cities is limited to IC-based devices and technologies. Now, a lot of you may be aware that most security comprises three main components: designware, which is also called natural security, hardware or the mechanical security, humanware, which is the personal security. When all these components are integrated with due consideration, optimization, balance, and ergonomy, they constitute integrated security. We would like to highlight here that global research shows that natural design integrated security is the best form, which is permanent, dependable, and effective, like in our old forts and palaces. But sadly, this is the least known and least prevalent in the modern world. So now just a very brief reference that most architects and security men don't realize that the basic purpose for buildings was to shelter and secure humans. As the security needs developed, so did architecture, with the primary purpose of mitigating risks and vulnerability. And then came a point when the failure of the buildings became the cause for failure of security. And then the very buildings which were meant initially to secure human lives became weapons of mass destruction. So the built environment must have built-in resilience to natural and man-made disasters. At the same time, they must not create new vulnerabilities in themselves by wrong design. Now, let me just take us a few seconds to explain this further. Our research shows that very often our conventional ways of making buildings create inadvertent vulnerabilities which did not exist but are design generated, maybe due to lack of knowledge or consideration. Take the example of the common scanners and frisking in most public buildings. Ideally, they require careful consideration. Is it designed with ample space and thought to have efficacy? Does it have ample space for the machine to operate it, for servicing it, for the personnel? Is it the best experiential quality that I can offer? Is it at the correct location? Each one of you may be aware that seldom are these thought out by the designers, as was the case at the US Embassy at Lebanon, when an incorrect placement of the scanner permitted the terrorist to bring down the building. So, lack of design thought can be catastrophic. So, efficacy, performance of devices, aesthetics, and ambience, they all need design thought, and it needs to be demanded from the design team for the built environment and cities. Remember that once the building is designed or built, it is very difficult and expensive to make changes. So we must accept that integrated security is a necessity. It cannot continue to be an afterthought because that can eliminate catastrophic errors, which are more common than you would like to think. It can save 15 to 20% in project costs and can make integrated security without loss of ambience. There is no end to the innovation and creativity possible, making our urbanscapes secure aesthetically. Now look at this example on your screens of the crash barriers for the Emirates Stadium at London. Instead of ugly barricading or severe walls, they serve their purpose so beautifully. So now with this background knowledge, let's move on to understand the third component, CPTED, CPTED. So what is CPTED? Yes, it is crime prevention through environmental design. Please note that the emphasis here is on prevention of crime, not post-crime detection and investigation. On the other side, environmental design means the total design of a physical environment, which would include the built environment, the campus, roads, the landscape, but most importantly, the people, the communities. So this CPTED, CPTED, is a strategy for crime prevention used across the world under different names: secure by design, defensible space. Basically, the administrations in the developed world, including police forces, security agencies, administrations, policymakers, criminologists, architects, and designers, they all get together on common platforms, and based on principles of CPTED, they decide policies for their cities and their safety and smartness. Let's understand the crime triangle. It is quite obvious that the first component of the crime triangle is the potential offender or the future criminal. Second part, as we all know, is the target or the potential victim, which could be a person, property, or even intangibles like data, reputation, etc. Now, it is the third component of this triangle which has foxed generations of criminologists with theories ranging from motive to sociological, psychological reasons, but CPTED hinges on the prevalent concepts of opportunity. Which takes us to the location or environment where the crime takes place. So basically, I could want to harm someone and have all the reasons to do it, but if we can ensure that I don't get that opportunity, then the crime will never fructify and we would have prevented it. Interestingly, CPTED bases this function on the properties of the locations where crimes would occur. Let's understand this better quickly. So please see the two pictures on your screen. Now take a second and predict which is likely to favor crime and which is not. You may be laughing at the simplicity of my question, but let's understand why the outcome is so obvious to all of you. In the first picture, the street is well lit, kind of busy but not crowded, with people and eyes on the street. These are all factors or properties of this environment based on ample lighting, degree of activity, people who may be watching, who can help a victim, who can stop the offender, or they can even apprehend him. So this environment clearly denies the opportunity for a crime. On the other hand, the second picture, it's a dark and lonely street. Someone may be hiding in these bushes. Nobody would come to help if someone attacks me there. And the offender will definitely go unnoticed and scot-free. So the second environment affords the opportunity for crime to flourish and gives all the qualitative aspects of the environment. Collectively, they influence a split-second decision in the mind of the potential offender to commit the crime or not. This is the assumption of CPTED. This is the vital question for security professionals, vital for life and death, vital for crime and security. So the crime prevention approach here is to deny the opportunity for the crime to be committed. The where of crime is more important than the why, and primarily because we cannot always control the why, but where is more controllable. It is an aspect of the environment that can be controlled by design. CPTED, the term was coined in 1971-72, though the principles were falling into place since the 1960s. It started with some basic principles of the physical environment, which we now call as the first generation CPTED principles. These were extended in the year 1996 to formulate second generation principles, which we will touch upon towards the end. So the first generation principles, as you can see on your screen, are access control, natural surveillance, territorial reinforcement, and maintenance, image or milieu. So let's start understanding these starting with the natural access control. So mostly the devices of natural access control are doors, gates, boundary walls, or perimeter definitions. The idea is to control access without impinging on the visibility unless necessary. Let's understand these a little better. See on your screens, this is the most secure address in our country, the Rashtrapati Bhavan. This does not have a hard and opaque boundary wall and is yet one of the most secure places in the country. The beautiful lofty gates not only add to the aesthetics, but also connect the insides to the streets outside. In fact, this is what we see in most of the Western world, where public spaces are accessible to humans, keeping the vehicles out, enlivening the sidewalks and the public realm. One can see the public space from miles, and it is truly a part of the grand vision. Yes, in India, we have different considerations of, keeping out stray animals, etc., but nothing that can't be solved by design. Going to the second principle now of natural surveillance. To explain this better, let's understand these sketches which will show exactly what we mean. The sketch on your screen is the way we conventionally live in our Indian cities. We have our houses well screened by boundary walls and greenery that cut us off from the insecure outside world. What we don't realize is that the boundary wall also cuts us off from the role of securing the street or the sidewalk, such that we can't contribute to them and they can't help us. So the second sketch is a better indication of what we want as per CPTED. They are examples of natural surveillance without the needs for cameras. The principle here being maximization of visibility for enhancing the 3Ds. The 3Ds of deter, detect, and delay, and the fourth D of denying the opportunity for crime. The idea is to foster positive social interactions which lead to natural security. Further, this would invite and attract secondary functions which further enhance the security. Now let's take an example of closer home. The top picture is of a house in a posh Delhi colony. In response to the urban security challenges, which are printed every day in the papers, this house decides to shutter and raises its walls almost like a fortress, little realizing its interdependence with the walkway right outside. Imagine someone being mugged or molested on the street outside. No one will hear. No one will help. This is the sad reality of our cities today. Conversely, those who couldn't be bothered less about what happens outside would say, why would I care? My house should be secure. Let me add here that such security, which cuts off the community, is not just selfish, but it's a self-destruct mode. This is because firstly, it compromises the urban security for the neighborhood as a whole. But imagine if something untoward was happening inside the house, then too, no one can know, no one will help. This is the reason why we see so many cases of homicides of senior wealthy citizens in such posh colonies of Delhi. My parents are living in such a locality and they feel isolated and alone. Now look at the similar sized property in Goa. So open, so connected, and so secure. Many of us would remember that houses even in Delhi and Mumbai used to look like this when we were little children. This used to allow for interaction within the neighborhood while everyone was performing a subtle function of security in the other's lives. There was interdependence between neighbors, vendors, and even the domestic workers. This system still exists in the rural and semi-urban communities. But as we become more and more urban, we take pride in living in anonymity. That is a primary crimogenic character. In fact, our cultures are so removed from our traditions today and so enamored by the new global models that our fancy gated communities comprising most of the suburbs of metros are sealed off in their harsh compound walls. The beautiful city, the beautiful lofty gates not only add to the aesthetics, but also connect the insides to the, As you can see, these communities are little islands which promise higher security to the residents or buyers. But what happens outside? They have no connect with the outside, which makes the streets lonely and unsafe. Most of us living in these stony localities know that there is a total breakdown of security outside these walls, without realizing that the selfishness of these communities is a huge contributor. Of course, there are problems right at the planning levels, which we are working to alleviate, but it is important for everyone to know that these new age models that our developers are aping have been rejected globally for their negative impact on urban security and exclusivity. These models are creating larger problems of social inequity, benefiting no one in the long term. Now let us see another example of the Gurgaon suburb of Delhi. As you can see, the urban planning is very tidy with clear-cut sectoral planning, institutional, residential, commercial, retail, and industrial pockets. But what happens to these spaces through 24 hours? When people work, the residential is lonely. After office hours, the institutional, commercial, and industrial areas become crime pockets. Not only is this model a failure in the security aspect, but it is also unsustainable. They are making communities inadequate, extra dependent on private transportation, elevating the traffic, pollution, congestion, and the overall unsustainability in every which way possible. Yet, many of our smartest cities, take the example of the gift city, Gujarat, a greenfield urban development, which is a milestone and boasts of some of the most innovative experimentations towards services and utilities integration, has only CCTV cameras, command control centers to justify its smartness towards security. The planning model, in essence, is still sectoral. The amazing thing is that these sectoral and non-traditional approaches are foreign to our culture, tradition, and climate. The clustered mohalla and interactive type of settlement is in many of our traditional cities still perform a much better social and security function without dependence on tech and devices. You can see here a layout of streets interspersed with parks. All the houses are looking into the park as the heart of activity, social interaction, and hence security. This is sound CPTED and a great example of natural surveillance, as you can see. Now let me get rid of another myth that CPTED is a Western concept imported from the West or developed countries. Actually, CPTED is just common sense principle based on human psyche and behavior. And yet, they are so knitted into our Indian traditions and culture that a bulk of the research at ABS India is based on showcasing this aspect. Take, for example, the city of Jaipur, planned as per the Vastu Purush Mandal on the concept of Niche Dukaan, Upar Makan, meaning below it's a shop, on top it's a residence. This aspect is called mixed land use, being pushed by most communities globally as the remedy for many urban ills. Basically, what this does is that the areas which are lively during the business hours do not turn derelict in the evenings. So while the residential eyes guard the streets through the dark, the area is bustling and secure during the day. This concept is being used in Delhi very successfully by generating secondary functions like this mother dairy near a park, which makes for a lot of activity and people in the area, making it safe and vice versa. This is also the welcome outcome of the mixed land use options in Delhi bylaws working in favor of CPTED. The third principle is territoriality. We all know human being is also an animal, and much like all animals, we like to mark our territories. More so if we have spent all our lives earnings to buy it. But do we need to do it like the feudal lords, like I showed you in the pictures earlier, and make them into fortresses, or the same effect can be achieved by simple modes of definition? The job is done without blocking sightlines or creating disconnects. In fact, even a CCTV camera proclaiming that you are being watched is an assertion of your ownership. Another example is this gate, which never shuts. This is outside my colony where I stay. It never shuts, but it announces to the visitor that he is crossing into a territory in a very subtle cue. It says that this territory is cared for, looked after, and gives a subtle sense of caution to the potential offender. This sense can further be underlined if the boom barrier is dropped down and visitors are screened, as it is done in gated communities, but this is rarely done in here. However, this is exercised at night only, and as a simple symbol of inclusivity, there is no discrimination against anybody, and it allows everyone in with a sense of caution. So territoriality implies a sense of ownership, not just in the terms of the right to use, but more as a sense of belonging to the community and a sense of responsibility sort of. Dr. Sarangi, our expert on the subject, will add more on this. The last principle quickly is maintenance or the image or milieu of a space. going back to the same gate and signboard, it announces that this space they are entering into is looked after and cared for. Anything that is well maintained, clean and uncluttered shows that it is cared for. On the one side, it offers least opportunity for hiding, and the sense of belonging to the space makes it unattractive to the potential offender. Further, back lanes that are clean and serviced will not allow derelicts to home into. Parks and lanes that are well lit do not shelter the homeless, drug addicts, and nefarious characters. In fact, even cameras that are installed and serviced show that someone cares about the space and gives the residents a sense of security, though it may be, misplaced at times if the camera is not working. What is critical to also note in all of this is that this combined looking after, the gates, sweepers, signboards, these are all by virtue of combined efforts of a community, whether it is an RWA or a traders association. This is second generation CPTED at play. So second generation of CPTED was introduced first time in 1996-97 and is today some of the most popular aspects of CPTED and the most predominant in crime reduction in India for sure. These include the social and cultural factors that play a larger role in the Indian setting, and also your corporate SOPs and procedures which fall into this category. A glowing example of the second generation CPTED is the neighborhood watch scheme in Delhi, which was started in response to terrorist threats. Keeping an eye on your neighborhood is not just a security benefit, but today in Delhi, it's also a legal requirement. So all these secondary functions which do our surveillance for free are actually valuable security instruments. In fact, you may have noticed definitely in rural areas, but so also in these old model colonies, that if a stranger or outsider comes in, they are usually greeted by people staring. Could be a guard, sweeper, presswala, or vegetable vendor. They make the visitor uncomfortable and immediately the outsider is identified. Again, this is a valuable CPTED tool. The neighborhood watch scheme, Bhagidari scheme, they are all good examples of communities being organized into RWAs, trader associations. These are all CPTED instruments. The people are empowered to think and decide for themselves and given budgets to spend democratically. These enhance the sense of ownership of not just their own houses, but of their neighborhoods and communities. The lack of feeling like outsiders in big metro cities as anonymous and one of the many who don't matter is one major reason for urban crime. CPTED, second generation, is the antidote. Involve everyone and make them belong. Another important inclusion of the second generation was acceptance that the natural surveillance and access control may be supplemented and aided by mechanical means, but never should they be the predominant tools. This is because cameras are great for detection and investigations post-crime, but not very effective for crime prevention. Now, at this point now, with some basic ground knowledge of CPTED and smart cities, let's go over to our esteemed panel, and I would like to introduce these experts first. So we go back to our panel discussion with this knowledge and start our panel discussion by first introducing our first panelist for the day, Mr. Vasudevan Suresh. He is the president of Good Governance Council of India and also the president of Forum for Critical Utility Services called FOCUS. Sir is the former CMD of HUDCO and currently a member of the expert group for EIA Infra 2 projects of Ministry of Environment and Forests. He is the chairman of CII Indian Green Building Council, IGBC, and also chairman of BI's Housing Committee, vice chairman of National Building Code, and a member of the BIS Smart Cities Committee. Welcome, sir. We are honored to have you on our panel today. Our second panelist, Mr. Greg Saville, is the ICA inaugural president and a co-founder of the International CPTED Association. He is a criminologist, urban planner, and former police officer. He is co-founder of the International CPTED Association and chairperson of the ICA Course Accreditation Committee. He currently runs his alternation and international consulting firm, and he's also the co-author of Safe Growth, Building Neighborhoods of Safety and Livability, and also You in Blue, a guide for the new cop. Our third, but not the least, panelist, Dr. Sudhanshu Sarangi, is Commissioner of Police, Bhubaneswar, Odisha. Dr. Sarangi is an IPS officer currently serving as the Commissioner of Police and is a former British Chevening scholar and trained psychologist. He's also the proud recipient of the Indian Police Medal for Meritorious Service and President's Police Medal for Distinguished Services. Welcome to all of you distinguished experts, and we are honored and it's our proud privilege to have you on the same dais today on this webinar. So we will start the proceedings for the panel discussion from here, sir. Our first round, we will take it, is we're going to talk about relevance of CPTED to the security in urban cities. So I will take the first question to Mr. Vasudevan Suresh, sir, please. Sir, you are an expert and a veteran for all matters pertaining to urban development and design through the different roles you have aced in your professional career. We would like to start with you giving us an overview of urban security considerations in the Indian cities in general, and then to comment on its integration through planning and design of smart cities against the backdrop of the deep-seated CPTED-related traditions.
Thank you, Manjari. Let me congratulate you for the wonderful presentation that you made to give an overview. I think taking forward the question further, I think there's a very interesting comment which has been given by Jeet Kumar Gupta, one of the very senior planners of India and the Haryana government. He says cities and buildings are never designed for safety. I saw it on the chat box. I think he conveyed that meaning very rightly. And also the good observation done by Ramachandran sir when he talked of the new capital city to be done for Assam, wherein no provision for the safety and security was ever thought of, and where to put this particular one. And these two observations, one from somebody who are a practitioner for over about 5 decades as a very leading chief town planner, as well as now from the police service, Ramchandran sir telling as an administrator on the requirement of the space there. I think it's a very close to the truth there. Unfortunately, the town planning departments of the not only the government of India, but various state governments, including the planners in various authorities which are dealing with the distribution of spaces required for various activities, you'll be very shocked to know that the requirements of the safety and security has got the least amount of concern. They deal with all of the requirements over in respect of residential zone, commercial zone, educational zone, health zone, industrial zone, hazard zone, etc., and make provision for all spaces, but not fully covered. While that can be one part of the answer, since I've been associated with the National Building Code of India, which is a very important guiding document for planning development of not only cities and towns, including up to the building to the built environment in a larger way, I thought it's necessary for us to indicate that very clearly there are provisions available in the National Building Code that how provisions have got to be made in the planning of cities and towns or for facilities depending upon the population of the area that is being served over there, for police posts for population up to of the order of 40,000, how much space is needed, where it should be done. Police station for population of the order of 100,000 population, how much space to be provided, and how much should be provided for the traffic police control room, district police area, police lines, as well as the for the training centers, as well as the police booths and other related one, very clearly identifying how much space, what area, where to be provided have been identified. And in addition to that, since safety security will also cover on safety management, the requirements in respect of the fire stations, sub-fire stations, as well as the disaster management center and other related aspects are also covered there. So the provisions are available in the National Building Code. What is required in the planning standards and development control rules of each of the cities and states in the cities, they should start following this particular thing. And the preparation of the master plan at that level, like you showed the Gurgaon master plan, how right you are. It shows all the other uses, but I could not find the location for the safety security at that point. Later on, a plot was provided for providing the police station over there. I am aware of the story of that particular big development there. So therefore, the first and most important aspect is for urban security as an important component. Are you providing the right level of space in the integrated design of the cities over there? One at the city level, and then come down, you break it down at a sectoral level, a neighborhood level, a campus level, then at a group of buildings level. You told about what can be done within a building, the wrong location for camera, that we can't do it that's at a micro level. What we do in each of the building, what security that we bring in over there to make the building secure, the people inside the building secure, or a group of building to be secure, etc. Those are at the building level design. But we are talking about a larger issue that can be controlled by our own design inputs there. But the good planner, a good architect, a good planner, a good engineering team, a safety security team associated right in the beginning can ensure that. But the larger requirement is the facilities to be provided for that. And therefore, the requirement in terms of the population of the particular place and the location where that should be, it should be central, it should be accessible, very important. Most important thing is availability of the space, accessibility of the particular thing. It will be central, a good amount of communication, movement, location there. Good connectivity in terms of the ICT, information communication technology, because one of the important aspects of safety security is also related to how do you communicate. Very fast information flow should come from where an event has taken place to the people dealing with the safety security and how they can respond to that particular thing. And this should cover, as you also brought out in your presentation, to cover all the activities, not only the residential and the office sector, but also issues related to the educational zone, like school children, young school children, other age groups over there, the health facilities and the hospital facilities which are there, as well as the traffic related, control related aspects, and also the disaster management center for various locations, the flood coming or cyclone coming or earthquake coming or a tsunami coming or a terrorist attack coming. How do we do? Where do we look after? So at the level of the decentralized level, where all we can have, what can be at central level, these are things on which provisions have got to be done positively over there. And you also very rightly brought out, I like that particular snapshot over there of street lighting. So equally important is, since the day is 50% through natural solar, the Surya Bhagavan taking care of your whole lighting needs over there, daylighting is covered, but nights are the most important one. Most of the crimes take place at that particular point of time. So good amount of illumination levels and the street lighting component is an equally important element. So now if you see, look at the coordination coming over there. And that's exactly what Mr. Ramchandran told over there. That means the people do the spatial planning and the physical planning for the city, for the space needed. They got to coordinate with all the people, first of all, the safety and security. How many times they were discussed with the DG police or a commissioner of police of that particular city for planning a future area to come on, where to put what? Is it okay? Is it a convenient place? No. The health department, the urban traffic department, as well as the education department, health department, all these people have to be discussed before you say, well, this is going to be a good place where these safety security locations can be done. And more importantly, the first case of the railway station, metro stations, railway stations, airports, bus terminals, market area, again, another area where large people congregate, they can do a crime and run away, but also an area where you require, that's where the lower order facility like the posts, police posts and other related security related facilities come into a large way. One is a physical space to be done in terms of how much needed, where to be needed, what is the locational aspect, and what is the preferential treatment to be required, done for those particular one, for them to do the right service in a very large way. And that's very, very important. You can't do it in existing city which are brownfield projects, but I'm sure we can do it in a greenfield project. All this now that people are talking about this in a very large way in the context of CPTED, where the crime prevention can be done with roadway environmental design issue. With now that this is coming openly, now things are slowly changing. It's a slow process. We thought the smart city would have been a good opportunity. Unfortunately, smart city, I'll come on to that later in the next questioning, but your issue, they're all brownfield projects. All smart cities that you have, they're all brownfield projects. They're all existing cities. They are not new greenfield city like a Dholera, or you have an Amravati, or you have a Naya Raipur, or you have a large number of new townships which are done by the Mahindras and others, where new land, new development you can do. So in existing city that you do, you require substantial retrofitting to be done. You know, you got to find out new solutions with existing one, upgrading an existing one to a better one, and therefore, so you have a problem in that particular area. But then the fact of the matter is, you still can provide that. To me, the whole thing has got to be looked in terms of the design issue, has to be the holistic approach. Is an absolute, use the right word, integrated. It's an integrated public infrastructure, security, safety, and security solution. Ramchandran wanted to call it as not only smart city, but also safe city. I want to add on the additional word, safe and secure city is an equally important component, wherein you require, from operational view, a real-time access to real-time visual information, location-based information which can be, flow of information can be transferred in a very large way. You can collect and collate widely so that each concerned areas to operate upon and the location there, direction can be given. And these are days where you have to also get the ICT in a very large way, information communication technology in a very large way, in terms of the type of information that can flow from one area to another for action, in terms of receiving some action, something has happened, therefore how do you respond? Those details we can come on to a little later. But then the larger issue is, in India, what's happening is the overview component there. You have to really work on this. At least the major cities, they got to get in. There are many lessons that will come, which can get on to the urban development departments and planning departments. How do you deal with that? And an area which has not been covered from, first of all, the scale at which we provided, the number of locations for those particular security one. It is not only here, it will also come in defense installation, Navy installation, Air Force installation, or refinery installation, industrial activity installation. You require security also, it will be industrial security force that will be coming in those particular area. So depending upon the economic activity that you have for different types of activity, the type of security concerns that you much more. It is not only people that matters, it can also completely pull down the whole economic state of a particular city or a location by doing, but not having the security for a refinery or a fertilizer or a production center or whatever. Can you imagine a COVID manufacturing, vaccine manufacturing center, suddenly something happened to security of that? You can understand the type of impact that it can come, not only for that, but any, for that matter, any other area. So therefore, for all economic activity, be it living, be it office, be it manufacturing, be it an area, learning, healthcare, all that, in each one of them, the provision has got to be there in a large way. And another most important thing I thought we'll very briefly touch upon is also, how do we take the design aspects and also the type of accessibility one, which I told about that. Very important aspect on the reaching the place from the, for them to really move around in the very speedier manner from the police stations or whomsoever dealing with the security of that. And second component I liked over there in your own presentation you brought out, what can citizens do? Security of a city need not necessarily entirely from the police department alone. The citizens have to play a very, very powerful role in that. And since I've been in Delhi for about 40 years plus and Mumbai subsequently 10 odd years, I think the example that your neighborhood watch is very, very important. The type of issues that you brought in terms of security that can be done by the RWAs and the market groups and other related ones, how they can also ensure, especially now in large integrated building complexes of a very large nature, again, Gurgaon is an example where the whole cyber city, let's say, because that's a huge amount of economic activity. It's not one building or two building, and the type of security for those particular things, the people, all those people also got to participate. There's a partnership between public-private people's partnership in a large way called PPPP is a very important component of safety and security, and not just the policeman alone and the police force alone to be taken for granted. You yourself got to be eyes and ears for helping them to deal with that, as you rightly said. Of course, now things are coming a large way in smart city. You towards the end you said also smart city. Large number of things have started coming in that. We will open out much more. But in terms of surveillance cameras in all points over there, and also traffic management and related issues, we can start putting those aspects, including the centralized area where all this information can start flowing in for giving the guidance, and using ICT principles, how guidance can be given, even advisory can be given. Don't use that particular road, or don't use this area. This information can be given to citizens also before you reach the particular problem level. So these are all areas which are to be worked together. Please stop me when the time is over, so that you give me 5 minutes, I think. So I can keep on talking otherwise. But otherwise, 2 more points to be added in this particular area is a good amount of zoning to be done in a large way for these type of crime zone. I'm sure police will have its own particular terminology for understanding the whole city and how do you deploy their own personnel large way. Equally important is the type of the residential accommodation required also for the police personnel and the security personnel. How do you provide that? It cannot be done too far away, and that is where in the NBC, when in addition to the facility for space to be done, also the residential space and other related component are also being identified for the personnel dealing with. More so the police personnel as well as the firefighting personnel and the fire brigade and other related one, because they are the supporting arm to deal with large amount of calamities that come over there, along with the law and order machinery. These are the people who come and help you out to bring. That's why I use the word safe and secure city have been identified in my one. And the last point I wanted to talk about is that you also touched about that. Don't the example that you gave all belong to the UPPs, the upper high income group and the middle income group population there. There is also, I have the 1, 2, 3, 4 rule where for every one house for a high income, you have 2 houses for the middle income, 3 houses for the low income, and 4 houses for the economically weaker section. So that makes it about 3 + 4, 7% are from the weaker section of the low income category. It is only 1 + 2. The 30% belong to the high income and the middle income group. So don't put all your eggs in the basket or only the top bracket. We got to also see safety and security aspects. How do you build for the bottom half of the pyramid? And more so the type of spaces to be provided for them in terms of living, and more so they also, because of the poverty levels and other related things, some of these particular locations can also be the spots for crime, starting off some of those things. And how do you bring action for preventing anything happening there, creating the right facilities, all the basic amenities to be provided there in terms of water or sanitation or street lighting or good housing, another one. This is also one way of doing. In addition to that, various other related efforts are also needed. So therefore, take the whole city as a whole for inclusive and equitable type of development. And they're bringing the security aspects for more so that particular group where they don't have communication system in the good way, at least individual home level, but as a group level, they will be able to have that. So if you're able to put all these together, Manjari, we should be able to have, the paradigm is changing. It has not been there maybe about 5-7 decades. Last 10-15 years, some changes have started happening. A lot of new townships which are coming over there. Gandhinagar is a good example where well-planned one. They have provided that particular aspects in a very large way. Maybe the new Chandigarh is emerging out. Large number of new towns are emerging over there. And we should consider not only the 100 smart cities, there are also 500 Amrut cities, which are over 1 lakh population. I just thought we should take, because smart city is a way by which you can look into it, that we can have a concentrated approach with 100 + 500, 600 cities of India where safety and security can receive a larger attention that we require. I'm sure when we hear from Dr. Sarangi, he will also be able to tell it is not only the capital city, other cities are equally important where these are Amrut cities also. So I'll close with that. I'm sure when you take it forward, I should take more time than this. I hope it's fine. This covers your question.
Perfect, sir. You've answered not just my present question, but also my next question to you. So it's
Partly.
perfectly fine.
Partly.
You've answered the question perfectly, sir.
Thank you.
You've answered this question and my next question also. So that's fine. That kind of covers almost all the ground.
Maybe you'll open up on the second question more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So thank you, sir. That was insightful. And we will now invite Dr. Sarangi he is a doctorate, sir. You are a doctorate in environmental psychology, and we would like to hear your views on the territoriality aspects of CPTED, about the spirit of ownership in relation to policing of Indian cities.
Thank you so much, Manjari. Grateful to ICA and IPF for this opportunity to share some ideas. Frankly speaking, Indian police has had very minimal contribution to the development of cities. Developments take place, and after that we are asked to retrofit security, to provide for security, and it is becoming very difficult. There is a need for much greater collaboration between town planners, architects, and the security agencies. So today's event is some kind of an ice-breaking event. Number two, if you go to even the remotest corner of India, the poorest household, they keep their house immaculately clean, but are not as concerned about the public road or the public space. Somehow over a long period of time, we have excluded people from the public space. They do not feel the same sense of ownership over public space, which manifested during the recent COVID migrant crisis, where we found millions of people deserting our cities, because that's a space they realize they do not belong to. That is a space they find very unkind, because they are concerned their requirements have not been attended to. So when we build an industrial estate or an industry, are we providing for the workers to stay there? If we are providing a housing development project, are we ensuring that people who would be working there to provide services to that housing society have some kind of an accommodation? As Manjari was talking about territoriality, we have been marking territories, building our own islands, totally unconcerned about what it does to the overall security of the place. And as a result, today we frequently get phone calls from very posh locality as soon as they find some boys from the nearby slums loitering on the street. The very presence of the human being threatens them. Our living has become a matter of conflict. Every day we are anticipating a Nirvaya to take place. We are worried what will happen. This kind of a problem is not, this kind of a situation is not sustainable. We need to have models where we share the public space. Exclusion of certain categories of people on account of wealth, caste, creed, religion will ensure that we do not view security as a public good. So long as we view security as a private good to be provided by the state with no one else to contribute, then we will not make any progress. Now, all of you know, within the same city, there are parts of the city which are considered safer, and there are parts of the cities which are considered unsafe. And we know cities which are considered safer than other cities. This is because of the way people live there. Now, as a student of investigative psychology, we look at how does a criminal make sense of the space around him. Obviously, he has opportunities that Manjari alluded to, and he also sees risks. Now, he makes a calculation where his opportunities are maximized and risks are minimized. So wherever he lives, he would not commit crime there because risks are very high. He will maintain a buffer zone, then start committing crime, but not go too far because he has to return back to his home base, what we call the journey to commit crime. Therefore, every offender is making this calculation in relation to the environment where he lives. Fortunately, our knowledge of criminology and forensic psychology today shows most offenders have a marauding behavior. They commit crime around the place where they live, though there are other offenders, a minority of them, who are like traveling salesmen, traveling to various parts of the cities and committing these crimes, maybe bike-borne criminals. But unless somebody has some certain familiarity with that area, he is not going to commit crime. I'll just take one more minute because I've completed 5 minutes of the allotted time. And we have to understand that every offender works on a mental map. When we work with offenders and talk to them, and we give them a piece of paper and ask them to draw a map of the places where they have committed a crime, we see how they understand these boundaries. Let's say, for example, a city many of you are familiar with, let's say a city like London. Now, criminals living on one side of Thames will not commit crime on the other side of Thames. It's just a kind of a mental barrier. They have built a mental map and they draw upon the mental map, their mental resources, to take decisions regarding offending. So we have to understand what are these mental maps that offenders have. So CPTED is a bright, good idea. We need to go forward. We need a lot more of collaboration, partnership. We understand many of these offending behaviors, why they are taking place. We can raise these problems to be solved together by town planners, architects, building regulators, and security professionals together. So this is my preliminary observation within the 5 minutes allotted time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And you were really on time on the spot. Now, our third panelist, Greg Seville. It's going to be morning soon in your part of the world, Greg. You've been up all night for us. Thank you so much. And I would just like to ask you on behalf of all the viewers that being a policeman at the core, that's what you are, and also the co-founder of the ICA and the CPTED revolution, the audience, I'm sure, is very interested in hearing how the theories that I outlined very sketchily apply to mainstream police work.
Thank you, Manjari. Yes, it is early morning here. The picture I have in the background is where I live in Denver, Colorado, and those are the mountains. I live near them, but currently it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I kept up. I'm trying to keep awake for early in the morning. So thank you for the introduction and the invitation to this amazing webinar. I'm so thrilled to talk to India. So your question is important and it's relevant. And I can tell you that my experience, I was a police officer for 9 years in my early life. And in my experience was as a patrol officer being called to the same places over and over. I would go to the same neighborhoods. I would go to the same troubled intersections, the same parks, and I wouldn't go to others. And I didn't know the reasons why, but I knew that there was a pattern that was in every city in the world. And when I learned about crime prevention through environmental design, I learned some of the reasons why. And some of the reasons have to do with the opportunities for crime, poor lighting and design. And some of the reasons have to do with social conditions. And when I began to study in a university in geography, I began to learn the reasons why this was happening. The work of Oscar Newman, when he wrote his architectural book called Defensible Space, and the work of C. Ray Jeffrey, a professor at Florida, who I worked with later years, who wrote the book called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design in 1971. And both of those books were based on a work in the early 60s by a woman, a journalist in New York called Jane Jacobs. And what she wrote was seminal to answer your question. And what she wrote was public spaces that people have a sense of ownership over, where people feel neighborliness, where people feel together, there's social cohesion in that neighborhood, tend to have safer communities. And that's what I learned as a police officer was was if I could get to work with people directly, if I could get to work directly in those neighborhoods and help people learn how to make their own neighborhood safe, those neighborhoods were much safer than if I simply went there and left. And so any police training, any police officer training in which officers are taught how to work in the community, how to work with residents directly, and then taught CPTED in the academies, because that wasn't done when I was a police officer. So my answer to your question is this, is that when I started teaching CPTED, I started with the police. We had a police department in Canada. I'm from Canada originally. I'm a Canadian citizen originally, and we were teaching members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the famous Mounties, the RCMP. And they had a course in Vancouver, Canada on CPTED. And how we started was we got the police officers to learn how to do CPTED. And then the police officers went into the communities and they went to work with planners directly. And they learned the language of planning. They learned the language of architecture, and they could bring their knowledge of the street, of criminal behavior, of how the neighborhoods functioned or how they did not function. They could bring that to the discussions of the planners when the planners were starting to do things like transportation networks and where the buses should be. You know, transportation planners know where bus stops should be in order to make sure the buses are spaced, but they don't necessarily know whether or not that's a high or low crime area. And so the police officers, when they were trained in CPTED, when we trained them, could bring that information to that table. So that the early training was very powerful. And then the next part of my career, I began to realize that architecture and engineering and planning was only the first step. And actually, in the early years of CPTED and Jane Jacobs, she didn't talk about opportunities for crime. What she talked about was building safe neighborhoods. And so that led myself and my former police colleague, Gerard Cleveland, back in 1997 to create what is now known as second generation CPTED. And what we did was we brought the physical reducing crime opportunities into how you build a cohesive neighborhood. And you, in your presentation, Manjari, you talked a little bit about second generation CPTED, how neighborhoods can organize themselves. Well, police officers can be taught how to do that as well, but that has to occur in the police academy. There has to be initial training that is right in the curriculum. So what we do now is we teach academies how to rewrite their curriculum to make sure that they get that initial training. So from my perspective, the police have a huge role to play, both at the patrol level and also at the administrative level and the planning level, where the police can work with planners. So there's two different levels, the macro level of the planning and the micro level of teaching police officers on the patrol what to do about it. And one more thing I wanted to add, I heard Mr. Ramachandran say at the start of the presentation, his phrase was, "Smart cities must be safe cities." I would modify that with his permission. And what I would say is, smart cities cannot be smart unless they are safe. So
Okay.
all the discussions we're having now about implementing smart cities into brownfield developments, because I'm an urban planner as well, and so I do a lot of planning around this. And all the discussions in the parts around the world where they're doing smart cities, and not just in brownfields, but in brand new areas like in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi, and where we're doing work in Helsingborg, Sweden right now. They're doing a huge smart city development. In next year, they're doing some smart city development, and we're trying to help bring CPTED to that story. Even there's a misunderstanding in the smart city movement that you can do this great technology, this great data collection, this great artificial intelligence in your different technical systems in the city, and somehow you've done the job. And my position is that you haven't done the job unless part of that is also technical, is also security, but it's also urban safety under CPTED. So that's the position I would take. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely did, Greg. And just to add to your line, I heard somewhere that, if smart cities do not integrate security and safety, they're going to smart really bad. So it's if you're not smart the right way, then you have the other aspect of it, smarting all through life.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting word. I really like that. And just to add to your very valuable suggestion about it being part of the curriculum, I can say that I'm working night and day to get CPTED and these concepts into the curriculum of the architectural schools. And I'm already very happy to say that the School of Planning and Architecture, I'm lecturing there and including this in their curriculum, and a number of other colleges call me for occasional lectures. But yes, if it goes down into our police curriculum, I think nothing better than that. That's the utopian desire, I would say. Thanks, Greg. And I have this next question, and I'm going to move it up because I am getting this repeatedly from a lot of the viewers, also live and registered. This is for you, Dr. Sarangi, that you are the Commissioner of Bhubaneswar, Odisha, and it is being developed as a smart city. We would like to hear your experiences and views on the existing traditional security systems versus the new smart systems being integrated in the development model, especially with your given doctoral interests, sir.
Well, I agree with what Greg just put across. For a long time, this is a brownfield project being executed by a company called Bhubaneswar Smart City Limited, of which I am a director. So I am in the board of directors. We decide on policies of this company to implement this brownfield project. What we are finding very difficult is that the problem of retrofitting, because for a long time we limited our intervention to various technology methods like introducing CCTV cameras. But the requirement of creating neighborhoodness, making sure that communities interact on a common space and feel a sense of ownership, that we are finding extremely difficult. Obviously, the housing projects which are coming up, they are mostly looking at militarization of security, big fencings, CCTV cameras, 24/7 guards, and stuff like that, rather than this community. And we have been explaining to these developers that no housing society is an island, because the persons who live there inside the household will have to come out onto the public street. There is no hiding. There is no way you can hide. You have to come out. So you have to share resources, time with the public and with others. This kind of inequity as it exists today is not sustainable. But this is very much an ongoing exercise. And really, some of the achievements are good. But as far as creating this sense of neighborhood, in most parts, it has still not been very effective.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarangi. That was really crisp, and I'm grateful to you for that. Did you finish, or you want to add something?
No, you can go on. As we come along, we'll speak, because
if you've not finished, you can continue. I thought you'd finished. I'm sorry, my bad.
No, it's all right. I'm through with it for the time being.
Okay, wonderful. So just now going into summing up the discussions, Suresh sir, if this webinar is being watched by our partners in the Urban Development Ministry, what would be 5 conclusions to share with them as essential ingredients for security and safety in the smart city mission?
Possibly a good guideline document can come from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs to all the 100 smart cities to start with, the CEOs and also the mission directors of in the state and not only that, I said I want to extend that also to the Amrut cities, 500 in number, and all cities as a town planning guideline, incorporating safety and security concerns as an important area in terms of the space and the location and the other parameters that are important for them to work in an efficient manner. Possibly bring out number 2, bring out a nice white paper on the lack of stress being given on the safety and security aspects on the smart city development. There are so many parameters done with a predominant level of thrust being given on the ICT. I personally feel ICT is important and it is needed. And instead of taking it as a driver, you have to use an enabler for information gathering and faster service, etc. And a special training program can be organized for the planners and the developers dealing with that, how exactly we can cover that through the retrofitting one, as Sarangi Sahab rightly said, not easy to do it, but difficult to do it. But even then, what are the options available in respect of such particular space in a large way? And the next component on which we can give this thing is to the command control center, which are now being set up in all the smart cities. It is not the smart city people alone. The police has to use it, the fire department has to use it, the disaster management authority, people will have to use that, the police department itself for dealing law and order and crime and other related issue. So it has got to be a multifunctional space, like some smart cities are already doing. I've been to a few of them, and that's come out really very well. And possibly we should work on that as a multidisciplinary, multifunctional space, and not just for one or two activities alone. And the last one that we can tell is a message that can go to the large number of CEOs of the smart cities, how this issue of the smart city component, the safe and secure city component, can be put across a larger way as an intercoordinated manner. As already indicated, this is done by a company called Smart City Development Company. You are the commissioner of police there, you are the commissioner of municipal corporation there, you have all the other authorities, the fire department. They all don't come under administratively in the same, under the same one, but I'm sure with appropriate coordination mechanisms, some of the states have done very well of doing the coordination. So the communication has got to go to the smart cities CEOs, how well we can deal with the issue of all the implementation aspects on the of the safe and secure city in general, and largely the citizens' involvement. Very, very important is the citizens' involvement in the safety and security, which Sarangi Sahab also said, neighborhood to be brought in, how the community groups can be brought in through RWAs or various other related one, and which is also brought out in the presentation. But that will be helpful. So even since you wanted 4 or 5 areas which can go from our Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs from the Government of India, or it can go from state government down to each of the smart cities can get across. I'm sure this will make a big difference. Maybe the white paper can help you to know the gaps and gap analysis in a large way, and then what needs to be done.
Thank you so much, sir. That was, as usual, very insightful and excellent summation. Now I will just go across to Greg again. Greg, you have an extensive experience of smart cities across the world. So if you had to list 5 distinct ways that CPTED can enhance urban security in traditional as well as smart cities, what would they be as per your experience with low income and developing economies like India?
Right. So I guess the first thing I would comment is I want to build on what Commissioner Sarangi said earlier, some of his excellent points about developing communities, how it's easier to do the technology than it is to build a sense of community. That's exactly the reason why second generation was created. Second generation CPTED deals specifically with that. And I think we must be very careful here. You see, I love smart cities. I love the concept of, facial recognition and artificial intelligence. And I love science fiction movies. I mean, I love security drones for surveillance. I love all that. That's all great. But we worked in Philadelphia last year in a high crime gang area, and the gang members were using security drones to watch for the police. So technology can go 2 ways. And so we must be very careful not to confuse urban security with urban safety. And urban security is the technical side of the story. It's the predictive policing. It's the autonomous mobile security robots. It's the facial pattern recognition. That stuff is fine, but that stuff won't prevent crime in the long term. That stuff is run by the authorities, by the police. That's not run by the community. That's not what CPTED talked about in the early years, and that's not what we talk about in second generation CPTED. What we're talking about here is what Jane Jacobs talked about, which is urban safety, which is the building a sense of community. Getting, not just training the academy, but getting the patrol officers and the police will know this in the audience here, that when the young officers come out of the academy, they go to field training, getting the field trainers themselves schooled in how to do this CPTED and helping them work directly with residents. That's how you build that camaraderie and that respect for the police. Now the police can be the trainers, you see? So now the police take a leadership role. So I think that's very important to make sure we don't confuse CPTED with urban security when we're really talking about urban safety. So my five recommendations. First of all, Make sure that any white papers you develop, which I think is a good idea, by the way, any white papers you develop use the phrase CPTED holistically. And by holistically, I mean to say that first generation CPTED, where you prevent opportunities, is one of 3 strategies. The second is second generation CPTED, where you teach them how to work with residents, how to do collaborative work so you can build a sense of neighborhood. In second generation, and what we just developed last year, myself and Matej Mihinyac, who's our moderator today, one of our organizers today. Last year, we wrote a paper for academic journals called Third Generation CPTED, which is going to the next level of livability and quality of life. Make sure your strategies use CPTED in a holistic way. That's number 1. Number 2, make sure when you use CPTED, it's not just security, it's not just lights and locks, that you're talking about planning. It's working with the people who build neighborhoods, who reconstruct neighborhoods, the developers, the architects. Manjari, you're leading a terrific strategy here by you taking the role as an architect, which I think is what you need to do with this. So it just can't be the police. The police must be involved, but it has to be everybody. That's number 2. Number 3, training that you do, it can't just be in the academy and it can't just be in the universities. It must be collaborative. It must be what we now call safe growth, which CPTED has evolved from third generation into neighborhood planning, a neighborhood planning system that we now call safe growth. And safe growth uses teams of residents and teams of shop owners and police officers together to develop their neighborhood plans to tackle crime together. So it's that collaborative aspect of implementation that really drives success, not failure. Number 4, train and certify. We have a certification program in the International CPTED Association. We've already done the hard work. We've already done the heavy lifting. So please, by all means, tap into the expertise in the International CPTED Association, obviously through you, Manjari, because you're the local leader there. But tap into the training, the accreditation training for courses in CPTED and the certification, get certified. Don't rely on the training of people who are poorly trained. That's a mistake we made in the United States right now. And then third, I'm not against technology. I love technology. I think it can be done well if it's done properly. Security cameras, CCTV, that's a great example. But you can't just rely on the technology. It must be what we call socio-technical systems. And socio-technical is technology with social management at the same time. So it's not just cameras that are operated by somebody from far away, but it's technology and cameras in which the residents themselves participate. So social technical technology, not just artificial intelligence by itself. So those are my 5 recommendations.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg. So I'll just quickly summarize this panel discussion. First, I'll thank our panelists for their wise discourse.
I wanted to make some concluding, suggestions.
Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
You missed Dr. Sarangi.
Go ahead.
Yes. I think this is for the first time that I'm interacting with town planners, architects, and discussing security. Like Manjari was saying that she is delivering talks in schools of architects. I think there is a time, the time has come for us to invite architects and to be invited to schools of architecture. Smart city is easier said than achieved. It's not very easy to achieve. Town planners and regulators have to understand participation of the police or security professionals is not to reduce the existing power of regulators, but to share responsibility. We as police officers have certain sense of responsibility of providing security to people, and therefore we would like to participate. I think one good idea would be to periodically hold meetings, maybe once in a quarter, with developers and architects in our own city and discuss these issues. And now that this virtual platform has become such an in thing, maybe we can use the assistance of ICA in carrying out these interactions. Third is housing and industrial development must provide for people, not only for buildings and machines, but for people. Fourth, as what we have seen during the lockdown period, people can actually stay in a compact, well-provided zone if we plan it well. We can minimize travel, we can minimize inconvenience, and we can minimize crime. That's something that we have to look at. Fifth is, how do we promote this concept of shared space? We cannot build islands of security and islands of chaos. Those things are fictional. There cannot be any island of security in community life in a city. If we want to reduce conflict, we have to look at neighborhoodness. How do we create it? Maybe through cultural activity where people from diverse communities participate, maybe through sporting activities, maybe by the richer sections of society showing a degree of empathy and care for areas in the neighborhood. And I find wherever these kind of during the lockdown period, we promoted those kind of interactions, and they were very, very meaningful, where the richer section of society, housing society, started looking after their less advantaged neighbors. That's the way to go forward. This is a great beginning. We have learned a lot today, and I'm sure we should take it forward and make sure that this becomes a very permanent kind of thinking process, should become part of our thinking process at some strategic level, at the level of town planners and at the level of senior police officers. We need to think together, and this is a great job. I thank the IPF and ICA for this invitation. I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm very glad you took that opportunity to express your views. And again, thanks to all our panelists. And the salient points from the experts that have come across today are the relevance of CPTED to Indian cities, smart or traditional, the way forward, which has been shown very clearly for our smart cities mission, and the vital integration of policing in the design considerations. I'm sure this will help us carve out security in the smart cities and also the traditional cities equally, if not more, secure the traditional way. Now, we have already impinged into the Q&A session, but I can see that there are many questions, some very, very valid ones, which is why I reduced the, I'm sorry, I took the liberty of reducing the panel discussion because they are going to get covered under the question and answer session. So let's start with the first question to Greg. Greg, there's a very interesting question and it comes repeatedly even in our registered questions. What is the most effective security measure? Installation of CCTV cameras or police visibility? And in fact, this can be clubbed with another question where they say, is our security devices the best, or is CPTED a better alternative? Which is why I'm selecting you to take the answer, because we'll be able to cover at least 4 or 5 questions with this one single question.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Commissioner Sarangi's final comments were terrific. Well, that's such a refreshing view to hear a police perspective that is looking to be collaborative from the beginning. So thank you for that. The question, cameras or police visibility, which is more effective? My answer is neither. The most effective is the one we talk about in CPTED. And the CPTED answer is the residents develop a sense of togetherness. The residents have strategies to develop the sense of neighborliness. They develop a sense of care for each other. And then the neighbors' surveillance over each other's common space, semi-public and especially semi-private space, that's the most effective of all, because that allows them to feel comfortable. It allows them to come outside and feel safe. It allows them to interact with the police in a positive way. And then all of a sudden it becomes uncomfortable for the offenders to offend with impunity in these areas. That's the most effective strategy of all. So we do cameras, but we do them last. So if we can't establish a really good relationship in the res, and takes time to do this. This is not easy work. This kind of work is the most difficult of all to do, to build a sense of neighborhood, to build a boundary of the neighborhood, to build that cohesion. It doesn't happen quickly. It doesn't happen within a month. It may take 6 months. It may take a year. So while you're doing that, then that's a good time to use security devices like cameras as a stopgap measure for the short term. But the problem with cameras is cameras don't build cohesion and cameras don't build safety. All cameras do is allow you to look. And I've interviewed many criminals and I've worked with many gang members, and they tell me that they don't care about cameras. They know how to get around cameras. And many times when they commit their offenses, they're on alcohol or they're on drugs, and they don't even look for the cameras. So cameras are useful in some contexts, but by far the most powerful strategy of all is natural surveillance where the residents care for each other.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you again for your absolutely spot on and succinct answer. Another question, again, I'm taking the liberty of clubbing 2 questions. This is Dr. Sarangi, I'll request you to answer this. This is from Simon Oesikun. He says, what efforts has been put in place for existing cities and towns that are not planned, secure and safe, considering the fact that such cities and towns mentioned are occupied by poor citizens? And here I'll take the liberty of also clubbing the question from Mr. Arvind Vanwa, who says that will Dr. Sarangi share some experiences that highlight this association in context of Indian cities and how CPTED application can help reduce these crimes?
Okay, taking forward to what Greg talked about, most offenders today know that if they cover their faces, CCTV camera would be ineffective. They can neutralize the CCTV very easily. And most people actually do not know what kind of CCTV camera at what angle would give you kind of an input, image input, which can be used for facial recognition or any form of recognition. It does work as a deterrence. But what we find very helpful is where we build a smart city, which as we said, is a retrofit activity without destroying existing community relationships. I mean, that's where I have been focusing on because one of my cities, I look after 2 cities here, Bhubaneswar and Cuttack. They are twin cities. Cuttack is nearly 1,000 years old, and it has very, very strong community relationships. And there are small zones, colonies. They have their own leadership. It cuts across political or party lines. And we find it is extremely difficult for anyone to enter these areas and commit crime without someone opposing or protesting. So one of the things that we have been trying is to maintain or sustain the existing cultural mores, our ways of living together, without while going on with creating development, how we do not destroy the existing relationships, how we do not become more selfish. That's the kind of thing that we have been all the time discussing. And that has been very helpful in planning security measures. Anything else which I forgot?
I think, sir, that kind of covers almost all the ground. And
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir, for that question. Another question, sir, for Mr. Suresh, sir. Very appropriately, somebody has written that usually in developed countries, the developers commence construction once the basic civil amenities like water line, etc. are laid down by the authorities as per the plan. However, in case of India, many times they construct without proper facilities. Can we take the approach of developing countries before beginning the projects, and coordinating among stakeholders and civic authorities, like planning of smart cities?
Absolutely. I think it's a question that doesn't require a what if. That's a situation where both the building development and the infrastructure development around, be it the water line or the sewer line or your road development, or I said the information highway is now equally important, like the power line, your water line, your sewer line. You also require the fiber to be laid, so that every house you also require now the way in which the whole country has been going. Even this program is now I'm from home. Now everything is through the web connection. Education is also coming through the distance learning in a large way. So therefore, they got to be provided. That's why the contribution of the infrastructure development is equally important. Now, as a result of what we discussed today, the safety and security aspects to be done at the neighborhood level, and at the city level. It's a combination of not only the bottoms up level and a top down approach meeting together for requiring the facility, because some of those issues on lines to be laid, but water to be given by a water authority or a water board, a sewer board, similarly electricity also. So we got to just see what can be done in terms of the off-site infrastructure required for all the series of building development, and therefore linking with the delivery of those particular ones. It's a must. There is no way we can. I am aware that Gurgaon is a good example where amazing facilities created in terms of the best possible one, but on infrastructure side failing, flooding taking place most of the time over there. It's a no-no. It cannot be agreed to in the modern context. You know, these are basic things of infrastructure requirement for all utility infrastructure, social infrastructure, economic infrastructure, and now the digital infrastructure are as a must for all the developments, being residential or commercial or the development. They got to be provided, has to be provided, and how do we integrate that particular thing is where the good answers come between the best models, best practice in developed countries and the bad models in the developing countries. So therefore, that's an area where the differentiator is coming. There are good examples happening where they integrated well. Good townships are also developed. I also worked on 2-3 projects with good developer groups where all these have come simultaneously. As a matter of fact, in some of the cases, initial infrastructure is to be laid first over there, and then only the building to be coming over there is also another way of doing the operation. But there is no answer other than to provide both together. Talmail has to be there between the building development and infrastructure. That's why I use the word the built environment. Built environment is a combination of the buildings along with the infrastructure around that, above the ground as well as below the ground. They got to be combined together, and add on to that digital infrastructure to be added. And as I said, one more, the safety and security component at the larger level, at the little more macro level. It cannot come at the local level. It has come maybe at the neighborhood level and also at the city level.
Thank you so much, sir. I hope the question is answered for the person who sought it. Greg, another question, very interesting one for you, which says, I just lost it, it moved out. Yeah. So how can we ensure public safety and security through CPTED in a slum or an overpopulated area outside the city? What would be your suggestions to our policymakers?
Very good.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I've been reading about India since I was 5 years old. I've had friends who are Indians, and I've read about it. I studied it. I've seen movies about India. I've never been there, and it's one of my regrets is that I haven't spent time in your amazing country. But what I do know, what I've been told, what I've seen about the Indian experience and the Indian culture is that inside cities, there are very cohesive communities. A sense of family is still important. A sense of togetherness is still important. You have what we lack in Canada and the United States. In many of our communities, we have to go in and rebuild that. You actually have that. You can do this so much more powerfully than we can. And so the communities that are high crime, high gangs and slums, for example, as you're describing here, they also have their own structure. They also have people who are leaders. They just don't look like leaders. They don't have the title leader, but they're informal leaders. There's a very famous book written a couple of years ago here in the United States about the gangs and the slum areas in Los Angeles. And the title of the book is, they have their own leaders. And the point then, we discover this when we do our safe growth training. When we start to do CPTED, we use this method called safe growth, which is rebuilding a sense of neighborhood in these high trouble areas. We go straight to the neighborhoods. We go to the street. What Jane Jacobs used to say was go to the street, go to the street, go to the street. And young patrol officers, this is what they're taught. Go to the street, go and talk to people, meet people, find out what it is. We go into these neighborhoods, we find out who the leaders are. And I'll tell you, many times the leaders are not only women, but they're grandmothers. And the mothers and the grandmothers are the ones who know who the kids are. And we start with them. We start with cultural festivals. We start with food. We start with events and things that the residents are already doing, things that they know, they love doing. And once you start to build personal relationships with them, and the police are perfectly suited to do this, if they're trained properly, once you start to do this, you start to build a relationship, you have people to work with. Once you have some people to work with, they become part of the training. And when they become part of the training, their language that they speak becomes part of the language that the government speaks. And you start to share the same language. They start to develop collaborative teams together. I'm asked all the time, you know, should we use lighting in this neighborhood to stop robberies? Should we do better police, directed police patrols? Is that the strategy? Should we use predictive policing? The answer is always no. Because I don't know, I've been doing this for 35 years now, and I can't give you an answer unless I know exactly the context of that neighborhood. So what I'd rather do is I'd rather teach the trainers, I'd rather teach the planners and teach the police, teach them how to do it and have them do it with the residents themselves. So we work with them, we don't do it to them, we don't do it for them. So yes, even slums, especially in slums, in areas in Latin America, we go into favelas and we do this all the time. So yes, this can be done effectively and can be done powerfully, because I think we heard it before. You know, you have different strata of income in your community. All stratas must be part of the solution, not just one.
Thanks, Greg. That was again, yeah, please go ahead, sir. You need to unmute yourself.
First and foremost, we must ensure that we do not criminalize slums. If we start with that perception, because it happens, and I have been telling my officers not to start viewing slums as hubs of criminal activity. And this is a narrative which is being created by media, by cinema, by the police, by the elite. And then it is creating a boundary of us and they. One of the initiatives that we have taken in Bhubaneswar in the last 1 year is to make our police stations far more inviting. We have made them attractive.
Yeah.
Come up with gardens, cleanliness. People really come there and they view police as accessible. So what can happen is police gets identified with richer section of society and as enemies of the so-called slums. If that happens, then even your usual criminal intelligence will not come. More than, even in a very tactical sense, you will not be willing or able to enter those neighborhood and get any information whatsoever, because they are a very coherent group. And let us not make these boundaries stronger than what they exist today. Not create social boundaries, not create physical boundaries, and look at how we can integrate them with our culture. As Greg was talking about food or other cultural activities, we have done a number of sporting activities where we want to interact with these kids there, because we know if we leave them alone, they will develop a sense that police is our enemy. And that's no way of law enforcement. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, sir, actually, your next question was very much linked to what you have just answered. So, nevertheless, maybe you would like to take that in continuation. So, the question is from Mona M, which says, Dr. Sarangi, okay. So, Dr. Sarangi, crimes occur inside well-guarded and well-planned colonies also. And as a human rights activist, my observation is that police conveniently takes on the person they find socially weak in terms of status and other social taboos. Why? So I think partially that is answered. Would you like to add to that?
Obviously, many of these crimes are committed by youngsters, younger people who do not have stable income. They have broken families, they have abusive parents, they are school dropouts. So despite all the political correctness that we can show, we have a problem there. We cannot deny it. But the solution does not lie in criminalizing them. We have to ensure that those amenities are provided there and those problems, those crimogenic factors are dealt with. One of the ways that we can do it, as we are looking at environmental design, to ensure that these youngsters are able to come to other areas. What now happens is the youngster comes and sees people from the boys and girls from richer section of society sitting in a cafeteria and enjoying coffee, and he hasn't got the money to buy coffee or be there, and he develops a deep sense of anger, and that anger can lead to frustration and crime. one of the ways in which the much talked about Nirbhaya case took place in Delhi is that a bunch of youngsters in the neighborhood develop an animosity and anger against society, against the kind of enjoyment that children of their age or people in their age group were having, being denied. They wanted to have it whichever way they could, and that's how it led to crime. So it's not as if, we are not aware of it. We are very, very aware of it. And human rights standards in the Indian police is constantly improving. By a lot of efforts, it's constantly improving. And I'm sure police is not a problem. Police is part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarangi. Now I'll take the last question to Mr. Suresh and also his concluding remarks. The question is from Mr. Narendra Bhatia, which says, is there national or international guidelines or standards for smart cities related to safety or ICT while designing smart cities?
The answer is yes. It's available, and these documents have come not only from the committee of the BIS dealing with smart city, but it's also the work on the ISO level on this particular thing on smart city development is available. So that's a good news. Possibly what will happen is these provisions will also get incorporated. And most important message that I am able to get out of the whole thing is get this issue on safety and security as also an important guiding factor into the main building code itself as a provision on that. And taking forward as a closing remark, I thought we have large number of awards which are available all over, very popular. The Clean City Award. We keep on the best Green City Award, the best Livable City Award, the best Destination City Award. I want to suggest today as a natural conclusion of this wonderful global seminar is to have the Safety and Security Index, the best safe city and best secure city. Why can't IPA along with ICA work together, IPF and ICA together, evolve a Safety and Security Index rating by which you will be able to rate the cities. For example, if I am able to hear which are the safest cities of India with the least amount of crime level or whatever, and where the facilities are there, like the inviting police station which Sarangi Saab said over there, those criteria will come over there for anything to be safe and secure. So the idea is to have the safe and secure, most safe and secure city through a safe and security index to be brought in. And that once it comes over there, it will also attract investments from not only everybody to come and put over there, schools to be open, colleges to be open, industries to come, works to come, etc. It'll also be a good model. After all, we are also interested to do that. So it'll be a good idea to do it on the lines of, as I said, the clean city, green city, livable city, also destination city. Possibly what can be done is there is a good rating system which is being done by the whole team in Government of India, the highest level. Possibly we can indicate this also, safety and security component also to be included in this particular, in addition to what I said for the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So the planning group can take into that. Okay. So safety and security index for cities and awards for the best safe, and IPF can take it. I'm sure Mr. Ramchandran and Mr. Greg can work together on this of taking this particular thing. It can be a global one even. Maybe one or two good cities in India might also come over there. The best safe and secure cities. Okay.
Excellent, sir. Thank you so much. And I would like to also add here, and I think Greg would also probably like to add that it's a very august occasion today that today itself ICA has launched the ISO standards for CPTED. So that's the first in the world, and we are having this discussion. So it's definitely going to take us somewhere. So I would... we are enjoying this so much. I hope our viewers are too. This discussion can go on forever, but we have run out of time now, and there are many more questions that were received, many of them with respect to basic principles of CPTED, and I will just take this opportunity to share some more news with our viewers. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just to give you an idea, sorry.
No, it's not come. Blank. Yeah, it's come. No, it's come.
Okay, great. So, so there were many questions, but and many of them were relating to basic principles of CPTED, a number of which we have already addressed, I hope. Those who need greater insights into subject are welcome to join the upcoming workshop from ABS India into both the crime prevention and counter-terror aspects of security and design. Please connect with us and we welcome you to join the workshop to learn more on this very versatile subject. You can also know more about it at ABS India, at our website, www.buildingsecurityindia.com. Now, there were a couple of questions regarding the membership of the ICA and how to connect with us. You can reach us on the links on the screen or write to us on the mail IDs that we shared on the promotional poster. Anyone can be a member of the ICA and there are no qualification criteria. Yes, you can join us as social workers, as someone asked, and we will be happy to have you with us. Check out our website for more information and to join us. If you're not a member of the ICA, there are many benefits of becoming a member, like access to knowledge, global knowledge, newsletters, information updates. You have discounted registration fee on the events that we have, and you get entitlement to the ICA certification and accreditation programs, and a lot of members-only sections on our website. Now, Dela Cruz Jr. of Manila had asked, this is the, so to just answer your question, Dela Cruz, this would be the membership is the first step towards making your own chapter in Philippines. On our website, you will also find information about our professional CPTED certification as a practitioner or professional once you have some basic knowledge and experience of CPTED. Else, you can also develop your own program and have it accredited by us. As Jonah of Philippines has asked, you can start your own program in Philippines once you have it accredited by us. These are the only exclusive professional CPTED designation programs available worldwide. Then there were some questions relating to COVID to CPTED in the context of COVID, in COVID times. And let me tell you, we had some special webinars for this. You will find them on our website, or you can write to us about them as they happen further. So we make sure that you follow us on social media to stay informed about the upcoming events and other ICA and CPTED related matters. You can also reach us locally at the ICA Asia region or our Indian chapter, which is ABS India. Now, we are coming to a close of this webinar now. On behalf of the ICA and IPF, I heartily, from the bottom of my heart, thank our honorable panel for this proud privilege we had of sharing their extensive knowledge and experience with us today. I'd also like to say a very, very big thank you to our viewers. We hope that you found today's webinar insightful, and we look forward to you joining us again for our future ventures. To end this session now, thanking everybody who has attended this session, I will leave you with our contact details on your screen and a 1-minute video about ABS India to close this session today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manjari, also from me, and thank you to all the panelists. Have a great day. you.